A weapon became a curse. Geralt's gloved hand brushes Vizima's notice board, eyes fixed on asterisk beast of white orchard asterisk. A peasant collapses at the inn table, breath ragged. She wears a child's face but feasts on mother's blood. Geralt's cat eyes narrow. Daughter Shiar res ink blood, feasts on Ada, twisted by her remains ants. Geralt's grimoire now stalks the night a Striga, not by malice but by design. A relic of a war older than the conjunction. A war that forged monsters as tools. Contract's ink still wet, the true hunter remains unseen. The contract on the beast of white orchard hangs on a rusted nail. Geralt's gaze lingers. This hunt was never about the asterisk beast asterisk. The notice board's ink bleeds like old wounds, the parchment brittle with a hunger it cannot name. Foltest's seal is there, cracked, his desperation etched in the price offered. But the girl's curse, it hums with a rhythm older than kings. A ritual weapon, not a monster, forged in elven forges where magic and malice were one. The Striga's wails are not madness, they are a language, a war cry. The prince hunts a symptom, not the disease. What if the true target is the asterisk memory asterisk of that war? The ink smudges, the past is not done bleeding. White orchard's war edge does not bleed, it asterisk oozes asterisk. The bog of Velen's muck clings to boots like a curse. Here the soil is not earth, it is a ledger. The first landing's echoes still stir beneath the peat. Elves driven north, dwarves scattered, kingdoms born from loss. The conjunction's shadow fell here first. Humans arrived unaware, they walked on a grave. The land remembers. The vines of Tau Saint choke what they cannot consume. A vineyard, a battlefield, a threshold. The Striga's curse was no pact, it was a wound reopened. A ritual weapon, forged in an elven war humans never understood. The Vizima devil was not a monster. It was a name erased, a war machine bound in flesh, left to rot when the elves retreated. Foltest's daughter did not asterisk make asterisk a pact. She stepped into one already written. The contract's first witness is the soil. Older than kings, older than spheres, it waits. The bog's black breath rises. What war, buried deep, demands another sacrifice? The past is not done bleeding. It is asterisk learning asterisk to bleed again. The ealdorman's crowns clink like false bells. Peasants whisper of a girl whose eyes hold sunlit poison. The bog grasses reeks of iron and cannot incantation unlearn. The records burn her name to ash, Ada, Foltest's daughter. A curse older than his wars, Geralt traces the lie in the air. A ritual's echo, not a beast's, the bog reeks of iron and incantation. What war, buried deep, demands another sacrifice? The past is not done bleeding. It is asterisk learning asterisk to bleed again. The trial of the grasses sears his palms. Witchers know its pain, how it carves roots into flesh. But this is a thorn without a rose, a curse that outlives its caster. The ealdorman's gold is a red herring. The real price was paid centuries ago. In Vizima's shadow, where elven stones gnaw at the earth, a pact was struck. Not with devils, with silence. Ada's golden eyes are a wound, not a weapon. A girl-made vessel, not monster. Her screams translate a language the world forgot to fear. The elven war did not end, it pooled in her veins. The northern wars were a footnote. This is the prologue. The witcher's hand itches for a sign, but signs are for the unbroken. He walks toward the bog's breath, toward a girl who is both curse and caged thing. What war, buried deep, demands another sacrifice? The past is not done bleeding. It is asterisk learning asterisk to bleed again. Geralt followed the tracks through blackened soil. The prints were too deep, too deliberate. At the altar's edge, his hand brushed carvings of elven warriors and a nameless empire. The stone reeked of iron and old moss. No monster's claw marks Huronly the sigils of a war erased from histories. A farmer's wife spoke in the village square. Ada's screams, she said, did not sound human. They echoed the wails of the wild hunt. Geralt noted the woman's trembling, the way her eyes darted to the forest. Fear has a shape, it wears the face of what you cannot name. The altar's central relief showed a girl bound in chains, her mouth agape in a scream that mirrored the carvings of elven devils. Not a monster, a vessel. The witcher's pragmatism wavered. He had seen pacts made in blood, but this was older. This was a weapon forged in silence. In the crypt beneath the chapel, bones lay in patterns. Not graves, not yet. The arrangement mirrored the altar's chains. Someone had tried to cage a thing that does not stay caged. The air here tasted of ozone and burnt honey, a scent linked to the wild hunt's passage. A scribe in Kedwin whispered of old maps. Vizima's founding, he claimed, followed a purge. An empire's remnants, not elves but their enemies, had built the city atop a graveyard. Geralt pieced it together, a ritual weapon, reawakened by Foltest's betrothal. The Striga was never cursed, she was a trigger. The Wild Hunt's cries are not random, they are a language, a warning. The empire buried here had not fallen. It learned to hunger in shadows, and now Ada's voice joins the chorus. The past is not learning to bleed again, it is sharpening its teeth. The Lodge of Sorceresses did not curse Ada, they resurrected her. A shard of elven sorcery, older than the Red Mountain's bones, had been buried in Vizima's foundation, a war relic, a spellbound blade. Her blood was not a stain. It was a cipher. The binding runes on her skin mirrored those etched into the Wild Hunt's spectral steeds, a language of inverted creation. The elves did not vanquish the Nilfgaardians. They entombed them in time, stitching their empire's end into a girl's spine. Foltest's daughter did not bargain with devils. She was the bargain. The sorceresses chose her for her Nilfgaardian lineage, a key to awaken what the elves could not destroy. Her hunger was not malice. It was the echo of a ritual that starved an army. The villagers saw a Striga, but the earth remembered a queen of Dryad's tears, blackened by the same war that made Ada's curse a shield. The vampire in the forest. He drank her blood to keep the lodge's secret. His fangs were a lock, not a violation. The Wild Hunt's elven nature is no mere detail. It is the axis on which this tragedy turns. The hunt was never a force of chaos. They are the elves' final gambit, a legion of the dead turned against the living to guard the buried war. Ada's curse is their vault's combination. And now, as her voice rises, the lodges lies cracked like thawing ice. What waits beneath Vizima is not a monster. It is a memory sharp and ravenous clawing through her veins. The northern kingdoms will not forgive this. They will not forgive her. The past has sharpened its teeth. It is done chewing. The moon hung low as Geralt traced Eoden in ash. Decoctions hissed in his vile thornapple, wolfsbane, the bitter math of survival. Ada emerged from the fog, her hair a crown of dead flowers. The Striga's breath was a war drum, her eyes twin eclipses. She lunged, he crossed Quen. The trial of the grasses bloomed in her throat, a scream no witcher could unlearn. Her claws found his shoulder, not blood but memory. A girl's laughter, a king's oath, a blade buried in elven stone centuries before the conjunction's first star fell. The ritual that made her was no curse, it was a ledger entry. A northern princess bartered to a southern warlord's gods, her soul a down payment on a conflict that carved continents. Now Foltest's daughter was collateral, her rage a tax collected by the dead. Geralt's sword wavered, a monster could be killed, a weapon demanded context. But the field held no answers, only the weight of unspoken histories. Ada's plea was not for mercy, it was for an audience, a witness to the war that had already eaten its architects. The Witcher struck. The Striga collapsed, a girl again, her curse unresolved. Dawn would come, the northern kingdoms would come. And the grasses would remember her scream long after the last king's name faded. Geralt left the chapel's threshold. Dawn bled through stained glass, painting Ada's corpse in hues of a warshed never seen. The trials sent lingered burnt sage, iron, something older than rot. Her blood pooled beneath the altar, not mere fluid but a cipher. The Ealdorman's coin clinked in his satchel, half the Pact's weight, half the truth. The Witcher's boots tracked the dark across Vizima's cobbles. No dirge followed. No king would weep for a cursed princess. Only the grasses, coiled in the wind, whispered what the trial had taught him. Ada's curse was no hex. It was a language, a sigil etched by hands that predated the conjunction. The Striga's howl had not been madness, it was a key. Foltest's court had demanded a monster's death. Geralt had delivered a relic's burial. The Ealdorman's men dug the grave, their shovels striking something harder than stone. A shard of obsidian veined with silver. No tomb, no monument, just the weight of a forgotten war now shifted into the soil. The trial of the grasses cannot be unlearned. Witchers carry its lexicon in their bones, in the way their skin prickles at certain magics. Geralt knew now why the Striga had laughed when he severed her head. She had not been bound by a witcher's steel. She had been awakened. The northern wars would march on blind. Kings would carve maps where empires had bled, and beneath Vizima's streets something patient stirred. Ada's blood was a syllable in a dead tongue. A warning, a contract. The Witcher lit a cigarette, smoke curled like the last breath of a queen. He had been paid in coin, the debt he carried now was in history, in the silence between wars. In the knowledge that some doors, once opened, leave only relics, and relics always demand a price. The relics of Vizima hold no answers, they hum with a hunger older than kings. The Striga's curse was not a bargain, but a wound left open. A scar from a war fought in blood and starlight. The wild hunt rides not as chaos, but as remnant, a legion of elven ghosts still waging a battle buried beneath centuries of snow. Witchers do not kill monsters. They unchain echoes, the continent breathes in their blades, its bones shaped by wars humans never witnessed. Foltest's daughter was never the first victim, she was the 1000th. The contract she signed was inked in the same blood that carved the northern kingdoms into being, a price paid to forget, to let the dead stay dead. But history is a vulture, it demands tribute for its silence. The Witcher's blade is both witness and participant, a tool to sever what should never have been joined. Monster and human are shadows on the same wall. The true horror is knowing which is the prisoner, which is the key. The door between then and now remains ajar. And every relic, every curse, every child born with the mark of a war long over thieves are the tolls exacted for the privilege of forgetting. What is remembered, after all, is the price. The price of remembering is a ledger of names erased. In Tausaint's vineyards, in Keedwin's ashen halls, contracts bind hands to shadowstorms scrubbed from parchment, truths carved into bone. The Lodge of Sorceresses, a marionette theater for kings who needed demons to blame. What if the Striga's howl was not a curse but a counterstrike? A relic of elven wars where pacts were hammers shaping empires. The Witchers file their notes, but the gaps scream. You think the devil of Vizima is dead. His children sign in blood every dawn. The girl's fevered eyes held a script older than Nilfgaard's thrones, a language of oaths that never expire. Who else walks bound to a covenant they cannot recall? The past does not bargain, it devours. The elven war that shattered the sky left more than stars, it left echoes. In Vizima's blackened soil, where the Striga's curse coiled like a serpent through Foltest's bloodline, the remnants of an older magic slept, a magic that did not bend to human oaths, but to the cold arithmetic of celestial ruin. The wild hunt, riders of the fractured moon, were not born of chaos. They were the last breath of a race that learned too late the price of rewriting the heavens. Their horns do not blare war, but warning, a hymn to the void left when gods withdraw. Vizima's forgotten empire was no elven kingdom, it was a wound. A ritual scar where humans, in their hunger, unearthed relics from the elven conflict and bound them to flesh, to crown, to child. Ada's curse was not a bargain, but a misread cipher. The Striga's howl carried the language of fallen stars, a tongue that predated Nilfgaard's thrones and the conjunction's brittle peace. The devil of Vizima was not a being, but a principle. That power abandoned by the divine becomes a monster by default. The wild hunt chases more than souls. They pursue the remnants of that war, the artifacts, the accursed blood, the oaths that outlived their makers. When Foltest's daughter screamed beneath the blighted moon, her voice joined the chorus of a conflict older than memory. The elves did not curse her, they forgot her. And in their forgetting they made her eternal. Asterisk, the world is not ours. It was borrowed, and one day it will be taken. Asterisk, the stars above the northern kingdoms burn colder now. Not because of Nilfgaard, but because the elven war's shadow has finally reached the present, and the hunt never stops. The Striga of Vizima was no cursed child, she was a spellbound blade. Forged in an elven war before the conjunction, her blood carried a ritual's wrath. Foltest's daughter did not bargain with devils, she inherited a weapon's purpose. The Witcher's redacted files whisper of deeper pacts. What weapon was buried in the conjunction's ash? What war's shadow